Maxwell House was once a symbol of dependable American coffee. Now it's a cautionary tale. Once known for its robust, grounded brews, the brand has gradually embraced a formula built for mass production, not purity. Today, its blends often contain additives, chemical stabilizers, and low-grade beans that mask bitterness with artificial smoothness. And it's not alone. Bottled Starbucks Frappuccinos are laced with sugar and flavoring agents that overwhelm any trace of real coffee.
Don't get fooled by the label. Subscribe now to uncover what's really behind your favorite brands. And get the truth Big Food doesn't want you to see.
At this point, these drinks serve more like caffeinated desserts than a reflection of coffee's rich, nuanced heritage, and consumers are rarely told the full story. That story unfolds across a wider landscape of compromised brands. From Cafe Don's diluted Louisiana roots to Dunkin's flavored grounds and Green Mountain's bland breakfast blend, the pattern is consistent stripped-down quality, inflated by branding. These products look and smell like coffee, but the sensory depth and cultural richness have been flattened by convenience and chemistry. This video confronts that erosion, urging a return to natural, unflavored roasts and slow, meaningful brewing. It's about rejecting prepackaged illusions and reclaiming coffee as a ritual, not a commodity. If you think what you're drinking in the morning is coffee, you might want to take a closer look, because for millions of people across the country, the dark liquid in their cup has more in common with a chemical concoction than a traditional brew. Mass-market coffee brands have strayed so far from authenticity that calling them coffee at this point is a stretch. They've taken a drink that's been part of human culture for centuries, rich in flavor, history, and natural health benefits, and turned it into a shelf-stable, artificially flavored stimulant designed for speed, not satisfaction. Let's start with Maxwell House. Once a household name, now little more than a symbol of everything wrong with corporate coffee. What used to be a reliable roast has become a bitter, flat-tasting grind, stripped of nuance and overloaded with fillers. That's right, many commercial brands like Maxwell House are accused of stretching out their product with low-quality beans and unwanted additives, sacrificing quality in the name of shelf life. The oils that give real coffee its aroma and health benefits, mostly gone. The complexity and boldness of authentic coffee, lost to the demands of mass production. It's not just disappointing, it's deceptive. And it gets worse when you step into the grab-and-go world of bottled beverages. Starbucks Bottled Frappuccino is one of the most successful and misleading coffee products on the market today. Packaged as a cool caffeinated luxury, it's actually a dessert in disguise, loaded with added sugars, artificial flavors, preservatives, and chemical stabilizers. The label still says coffee, but the bottle is a sugar bomb dressed up in branding. It's engineered for sweetness, not for the earthy depth or natural bitterness of real coffee. The end result, a product that spikes your blood sugar and delivers none of the sensory or nutritional benefits of an honest brew. Next on the list is Cafe Don, once known for offering traditional blends, particularly in regions like New Orleans, where coffee has deep cultural roots. This brand has drifted from its heritage. Their current offerings are heavily processed, often pre-ground, flavored, and stripped of the robust character that defines traditional Louisiana blends. Industrialization has gutted the authenticity. You're not getting the warm roasted complexity that represents New Orleans culture. You're getting a flattened out, overly flavored imitation. And for a brand that once meant community and resilience, that's more than just a downgrade. It's a disservice to its legacy. Dunkin' Hazelnut Ground Coffee is another offender in the artificially flavored category. What used to be a straightforward cup of flavored coffee is now an exercise in synthetic taste. These grounds are often sprayed with hazelnut flavor oils and other chemical additives during processing, resulting in a drink that tastes more like a candy bar than a cup of joe. It's sweet, it's shallow, and it's stripped of the antioxidants, minerals, and subtle flavor notes that define real coffee. The processing also destroys much of the nutritional value. What's left is an inert beverage that stimulates but doesn't nourish, an empty shell with none of the integrity of true hazelnut coffee made with care. And then there's Green Mountain Coffee Breakfast Blend, marketed as light, approachable, and smooth. This blend has been critiqued for being overly processed and chemically stabilized to extend shelf life, particularly in pod form. The brewing method used in K-Cups rapidly extracts flavor, which sounds good in theory, but often leaves behind the complex oils and aromatic compounds that make fresh coffee worth drinking. Instead, you get a brew that's flat, acidic, and predictable. Worse, many of the pods come with added flavoring or have been treated with chemical compounds to keep the taste uniform across long stretches of time. That's not craftsmanship, that's convenience, bought at the cost of authenticity. What unites all of these brands is a fundamental shift from real coffee to something engineered to feel like coffee but lacking its soul. They prioritize stability, sweetness, and branding over everything else. They've reshaped consumer expectations so effectively that people now think coffee means sugary drinks, flavored pods, and pre-ground tins that last for months. That transformation didn't happen by accident. It was driven by an industry more focused on shelf life and image than health or heritage. These products have also fundamentally altered our connection to coffee as a ritual. Traditionally, coffee was about more than caffeine. It was a sensory experience, a slow, rich process that engaged smell, taste, and memory. The beans, watching the bloom, savoring the aroma, but the commodification of coffee has flattened all of that. Today, coffee is a product on a shelf, a brand, a fast fix. It's been stripped of depth, turned into a convenience item, and sold to us as a lifestyle. What we've lost in that transformation is immense. Natural, freshly roasted coffee is loaded with antioxidants, natural oils, and subtle compounds that benefit the body and awaken the senses. It has cultural depth, tied to communities and traditions around the world, but the more coffee is flavored, processed, and packaged for uniformity, the more it loses all of that. Those health-supporting compounds, destroyed during rapid roasting and chemical flavoring, the sense of cultural identity, erased by global branding campaigns that sell the same product to every corner of the market, removing local flavor and significance. Brands like Maxwell House, Cafe Donde, and Green Mountain have taken something organic and turned it into a transaction, something intimate and turned it into packaging, and in doing so, they've cheapened the experience for everyone. But here's the part that matters most. We're not powerless. The choices we make at the store and the cafe determine what kind of coffee industry we support. Every time we buy a product laced with flavor oils and preservatives, we reinforce a system that prioritizes convenience over craft. Every time we reach for a sugary bottled drink instead of a freshly brewed cup, we tell companies that artificial is good enough. That's why it's critical to read labels, to know what's in your coffee, to support roasters and brands that still value transparency, freshness, and tradition. There are plenty of small-scale producers who roast their beans naturally, avoid chemical flavoring, and focus on preserving the integrity of the product. Those are the brands worth investing in, not because they're trendy, but because they respect the consumer and the coffee. Coffee doesn't have to be an empty buzz. It doesn't have to be a sweetened, chemically enhanced substitute for the real thing. It can still be what it once was, a symbol of care, community, and depth. A connection to the land, the farmer, the roaster, a moment of presence in a world that pushes us to rush. So if you're drinking one of these brands and wondering why it doesn't feel right, why the taste fades fast, or the buzz feels empty, it's because something's missing. What's missing is the real coffee. Start asking questions. Start choosing better. You don't need to quit coffee. You just need to quit fake coffee. And if this breakdown helped you see your cup a little differently, give this video a thumbs up. Drop a comment with your go-to coffee or one you've tried and regretted. Share this with someone who thinks bottled frappuccinos are gourmet, and hit subscribe. We're not done digging into the products you trust. It's time to take back our routines, one real cup at a time. This conversation about coffee isn't just about taste, it's about trust. It's about how the products we consume every single day, often without thinking, have been quietly transformed into something completely unrecognizable, and it's not just Maxwell House or Starbucks bottled drinks. These aren't isolated issues. They're a warning sign of what the entire coffee industry has become, a sleek branded, chemicalized experience that's only pretending to be about coffee. When you strip away the marketing, what's left is a cheap product, engineered for speed, filled with additives, and built for one purpose: profit. Let's talk again about Dunkin' Hazelnut Ground Coffee, a perfect example of how flavor has been weaponized. Real hazelnut coffee, it should be roasted with actual nuts or infused during the brewing process, but that's not what's happening here. Instead, you're getting beans coated in synthetic flavor oils, lab-created compounds designed to mimic a flavor profile without ever touching a real hazelnut. It smells strong, it tastes sweet, and it tricks your palate, but the complexity gone, the health benefits compromised. It's a sensory illusion, and after a few sips, it becomes painfully obvious, and that's the pattern. These products promise convenience, but at a steep cost. The complexity of real coffee comes from how it's grown, harvested, roasted, and brewed. Every step matters, but these brands skip the steps. They take shortcuts. Why pay for quality beans when you can mask low-grade coffee with chemical flavorings and sweeteners? Why invest in skilled roasting when you can mass burn a batch and toss in preservatives to cover it up? Green Mountain Coffee Breakfast Blend is another one doing damage. They market themselves as smooth, mild, and eco-friendly, but behind the branding, you'll find one of the most over-processed products on the market, especially in pod form. These single-use convenience pods are designed for maximum speed, not maximum flavor. What you get in return is coffee that's been stripped of its oils, flattened in flavor, and weakened nutritionally. You may as well be drinking a shadow of what coffee used to be. The antioxidants, mostly degraded. The aroma, practically sterilized by the time it hits your cup. And let's be clear, this isn't just bad for your morning, it's bad for your body, because what's being added in place of those lost compounds are things like artificial flavors, stabilizers, and sugars that don't belong in coffee. You're not just losing the richness and complexity, you're replacing it with a cocktail of chemicals designed to hit your taste receptors fast and then disappear, leaving you unsatisfied and craving more. That's not nourishment, that's manipulation. The deeper problem here is how much this has changed what people expect coffee to be. The cultural shift is staggering. Once coffee was a grounding ritual. You made time for it. You brewed it slowly. You appreciated it. It connected people. It meant something. But now, it's a bottled sugar bomb from the gas station, a pod you slam into a machine, a fake vanilla explosion in your travel mug. It's no longer about the experience. It's about the caffeine hit, about the convenience, about branding, and that cultural shift has gutted coffee's original meaning. What used to be about patience and process has been reduced to a stimulant hit between meetings. Starbucks bottled Frappuccino isn't coffee, it's a symbol of how disconnected we've become from what real food and real drinks are supposed to be. It's not nourishing, it's not honest, it's not even satisfying for long. It just gives you a spike and leaves you flat, just like every other artificially constructed beverage. Parading as something authentic, Cafe Don's fall from grace hurts even more because it used to mean something more. It once represented local flavor, a unique cultural identity, rooted in the soul of places like New Orleans. But like so many others, it traded in its legacy for shelf space and commercial viability. What used to be bold, earthy, and steeped in tradition is now just another mass-produced grind, flat in taste, muted in soul. This isn't just about coffee anymore. It's about identity, about what we lose when we let commerce replace craft. And this problem isn't theoretical. It affects your health. Fresh, unflavored, minimally processed coffee can be rich in antioxidants, magnesium, and other compounds that support heart health, focus, and metabolism. But when you process it heavily, strip it of its natural oils, add synthetic flavorings, pump it full of sugar or non-dairy creamers, that benefit vanishes. It becomes an empty drink. It stimulates your body, but offers nothing in return. It fills you up, but it doesn't feed you. The worst part, most people have no idea. They've been conditioned to associate sweetness and convenience with quality. They've been trained to believe that a plastic pod or bottled frappe is the same thing as a brewed cup. They've been told that hazelnut flavor means actual hazelnut, or that a light roast is healthier just because it says so on the box. But it's a lie. The industry has replaced education with advertising, and most consumers never get the chance to learn the difference. But here's the good news. You can still take it back. You can choose to stop settling for these processed imposters. You can support roasters and brands that respect what coffee really is. Those who buy real beans, roast them with care, and package them with integrity. You can make the choice to re-engage with coffee as a ritual, not just a fix. You can slow down, even just for 5 minutes, and reconnect with the experience that coffee is supposed to be. You don't have to be a connoisseur. You don't need expensive gear or barista skills. You just need to stop falling for the artificial. Start reading labels. Start questioning why your coffee has 10 ingredients. Start noticing how it makes you feel, because there's a big difference between energized and jittery, between satisfied and depleted. The body knows when something's real, and it knows when it's not. Real coffee doesn't need to be hidden behind flavor oils. It doesn't need sugar to taste good. It doesn't need plastic packaging or 5-month shelf life. It just needs to be grown, roasted, brewed, and enjoyed. That's it. Simple, honest, whole. So if you've been drinking Maxwell House, Green Mountain, Cafe Don, Dunkin's flavored grounds, or Starbucks' bottled concoctions, this is your wake-up call. Not to stop drinking coffee, but to stop drinking that coffee. To stop accepting something fake when something real is within reach. There's more to this drink than a caffeine rush. There's history, culture, health, craft. The only question is whether we're willing to stop being passive consumers and start becoming active participants in our own choices. We're not done, because the damage that these 5 brands have done to our collective understanding of coffee runs deep. This isn't just about personal preference anymore. It's about how a multi-billion-dollar industry quietly redefined what coffee is, and how millions of people have unknowingly adapted to a lower standard, a more processed, more artificial, more corporate version of something that was once deeply personal and nourishing. Let's say it plainly, you deserve better than this. You deserve better than Maxwell House's bland filler-packed blends that leave behind the bitter residue of industrial roasting rather than the rich complexity of naturally cultivated beans. Maxwell House has gone from a household staple to a cautionary tale, proof that tradition means nothing when a brand prioritizes mass production over flavor integrity. They've hollowed out what was once a trusted name and filled it with whatever gets the product out fast and cheap. Starbucks bottled Frappuccino is even more dishonest. Sold as luxury, marketed as indulgence, but in reality, it's sugar with a side of caffeine, disguised with coffee-sounding branding and sleek packaging. The ingredient list alone tells you everything you need to know. It's a liquid dessert engineered for shelf life and sweetness, not for health or authenticity. The people buying it every morning aren't getting a treat. They're being tricked. It's the illusion of coffee, built in a lab and sold in a bottle. Cafe Don's decline is especially tragic. This wasn't just a product. It used to be a reflection of culture, of community, of tradition, especially in regions like New Orleans, where coffee isn't just a drink. It's a story, a connection to roots, to resilience, to the rhythms of local life. But now, just another product line streamlined for national distribution, stripped of the very elements that gave it soul. You can taste the difference, not because of what's there, but because of what's missing. Dunkin' hazelnut ground coffee might smell inviting when you open the bag, but what's actually hitting your nose is chemical. A synthetic hazelnut aroma sprayed onto mashed roasted beans that have little flavor of their own. It tricks you. That first cup might seem fine, smooth, nutty, familiar, but keep drinking, and the illusion wears off. There's no depth, No development in the cup, just a flat artificial aftertaste that lingers, reminding you that you've been sipping on a simulation. And Green Mountain Coffee Breakfast Blend. Let's not pretend smooth means anything anymore. It's code. It means watered down, bland, designed not to offend, but also not to impress. And when it's brewed through a pod system, the degradation is even worse. Most of the healthy compounds and nuanced flavors in fresh coffee are lost through this process. What's left? A sterile, overly acidic liquid that delivers caffeine, but robs you of everything else. The real damage isn't just on the tongue, it's in how these products have numbed people's palates. When you grow used to artificial flavorings, syrupy textures, and predictable, single-note coffee, you lose the ability to recognize something better. Real coffee starts to taste too bitter or too strong because your senses have been rewired. That's what the industry wants, because a dulled palate is easy to manipulate. It doesn't ask questions. It doesn't notice when quality disappears. And that's why it's so important to wake up, not just with caffeine, but with awareness. Real coffee isn't hard to find. It's out there in local roasteries, in fair trade blends, in single origin beans that carry their origin stories with pride. These coffees don't need to be flavored or packaged with buzzwords. They don't need artificial preservatives or sugary disguises. They're good because of where they come from, how they're grown, and the care with which they're roasted and brewed. And the difference isn't just taste, it's how you feel. Fresh, clean coffee made with real beans doesn't leave you jittery and drained. It doesn't give you a sugar crash. It doesn't spike your energy and then leave you craving more. It supports you. It nourishes. Because when coffee is grown properly, roasted with intention, and brewed with care, it retains the antioxidants, the minerals, the oils, and the depth that define its power as both a stimulant and a healthful drink. The fix isn't complicated. Stop settling. Start asking questions. Start reading ingredient labels. If your coffee includes things like natural flavors, stabilizers, preservatives, or added sugars, it's not coffee, it's chemistry. And you're paying for the privilege of being misled. You don't need to give up convenience to make better choices. There are brands and cafes out there that are doing it right, keeping their products clean, their processes transparent, and their focus on integrity. You just have to stop defaulting to what's easiest, most available, or most advertised. You have a say in what gets normalized, because the more people demand real coffee, the more the industry has to change. The more we support brands that prioritize freshness and authenticity, the less power the artificial flavor kings will hold. This is how we win back quality, not through outrage alone, but through smarter buying, better awareness, and a refusal to settle for a drink that no longer serves us. So if you're tired of drinking sweetened, processed, chemically enhanced coffee that leaves you with a buzz and no satisfaction, stop. It's not about quitting coffee, it's about reclaiming it, taking it back from the companies who hijacked it, rediscovering the joy of a clean, honest cup. And if you've made that switch, if you've tasted the difference and felt the shift, let others know. Hit that like button. Share this video with someone who deserves better than what they're sipping every morning. Drop a comment with the worst coffee brand you've tried or the best switch you've made, and hit subscribe, because this is just the beginning. The fight for real food, real flavor, and real coffee is on, and we're not backing down.